Hey everybody, it's Cindy Whitmer here. Welcome again to the Life Makeovers podcast, where I'm having conversations with women in midlife about what they've gone through, what they've learned, where they're at, and with the thought in mind that I want you listeners to know that you are not alone with whatever you're going through. Other women are right there with you. And we're just here to share our stories and share any nuggets that we have found in our lives that have been helpful as we've moved further down our path. And today I am so excited because I have one of my good friends here with me, Rhonda Burgess. Hello, Rhonda.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. So I think I met you right away, pretty quickly after I moved to Lawrence back in the fall of 2016. So we've known each other for about 6 years, I think.
Yeah, I can't believe that because it seems like I've known you a really long time because we've been friends for a little while. But yeah, I was thinking about that too. I was thinking, well, I think we did meet in Spiritual Entrepreneurs. That was the first time that I met you. Yeah.
So Rhonda and I attend a gathering where we talk about how to live our best lives, stay in alignment with what we want, I don't know, how would you describe it?
Yeah, I think that. I mean, I think it's people that, are students of new thought. I mean, they're people that always are reframing their life no matter what's going on. They reframe it in a way where it's empowering and positive and just a group of people that have such a wealth of knowledge and are so supportive of one another. So yeah, I mean, I've gotten so much out of that group over the years, for sure.
So grateful. So why don't you introduce yourselves a second to our listeners who don't know you, who might not know you. Some who are listening know you really well, like I do. But so tell us about you, Rhonda. Who are you?
Oh gosh, that is such a big question.
Who aren't you? Maybe it's the better question.
Yeah, it is. I'm still trying to figure that out. But no, I live here in Lawrence, Kansas. I'm a Kansas girl, was born and raised here, grew up just in a county north of where I live today, moved away and lived there for several years. My degree was in interior design, and I did that for several years. That was my career. I have 2 children that are grown now. My son is 23 and my daughter is 26 and married. I'm single. I work for a law firm right now. I'm a legal assistant at a law firm, and that was a new development a couple of years ago. So, a new career, a new stage in my life with that. So that's been really fun. So yeah, I mean, that's a little bit about me.
Well, and let's just face it, you're also a kitty mama, as we've seen here. I mean, the cat's trying to get in on this as well.
I know. He's always wanting to get right in the middle of everything. So, and I've been gone all day. I just got home. So of course he wants all the attention. So
he wants all the Of course. And I think it's important that everyone know that your favorite holiday, I'm guessing, is International Taco Day, right?
Yeah, that's right. I forgot to mention that. Taco is my favorite. All my friends know that. I have so many fun things that get posted on my Facebook page about tacos and yes, yeah. So that's super fun too.
She loves tacos. Send all taco recipes to Rhonda.
That's right. I had a friend that even gave me a taco costume a few years ago, a shrimp taco costume that I wore for Halloween. It was hilarious. So and fitting.
Oh, that's great. Well, hey, you're in the middle of your life, right? Like the rest of us here. But when you were younger, like, and looking at, older generations, whether it was your mother's generation or grandmother's generation or whatever, like what did you think midlife was going to be like?
Well, I don't think that I gave it that much thought when I was younger because I was just trying to do what I was doing then. My life was really consumed with what was in front of me, so I didn't give it a lot of thought. I think if I would have given it some thought, I probably would have thought that middle-aged people had more of life figured out
Mm,
than now that I'm in my middle ages. I'm going like, I'm not
maybe
sure that
not.
I have it all figured out yet. But I did think that too, it would probably be easier than it has been. I thought I would be over the major challenges, like raising my kids and
Right.
all of that. But
Maybe
life,
toasting by now.
yeah, I mean, but life just keeps happening. There are events that come up, and so I guess, yeah, I would have thought that it would have been a little bit easier. Yeah, yeah. Not saying it's all been bad. I don't want to, give that impression, but
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, life keeps coming at you.
it does keep coming for sure. And one of the things that one of my other guests said, at least one other one, and maybe more, but said that they made it look easy, maybe like the women older in our families, maybe made it look easier than even it really was for them. And we just, in our youth, we didn't know what maybe we weren't thinking about it. Like you're saying, we were just living our lives and trying to get what we wanted as kids or teens or young adults. But
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't think, especially my grandmother's generation. I don't know about yours, but I didn't hear women complain. Like it took my mother's generation where I started hearing the complaint.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, that's absolutely what came to mind. I was like, well, my mother was sure to complain, and my aunts were complaining, but also, that generation, or at least for my family, it was very patriarchal, right? So, I
Mm.
mean, the women in my family were very, very much dependent on their husbands for their financial stability, for, you
Yeah.
know, a lot of things. And my generation was, our generation was different in that. And I remember thinking that when I was younger, thinking, boy, I don't ever want to be that dependent on somebody else, like that. I want to have a life that I wanted to be married. I wanted to have a family. I wanted to do all that, but I didn't want to be so, I guess, dependent, it keeps coming up on someone else for a lot of things in my life,
Mhm.
and that was a big driving force for me to go to college, because I was the first person in my family to graduate from college.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank,
Wow.
thank you. And so, and that was a big reason why I wanted to go, was I wanted to do something different. I wanted to live a different life. I felt like I wanted to have a bigger life in a lot of ways, and I felt like their lives were somewhat small, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and they were doing a lot of great things, and they were raising families, and they were very busy, and all of that. I don't want to diminish their life at all, but I just wanted something different. And I also think that, you and I don't know about you, but our generation, I mean, I was seeing movies like Working Girl, I was seeing those women
Yeah.
that were, they were having careers, and,
Right.
and all
Having
of
it
that.
all, right?
Yes.
Having it all, the career, the family, the white picket fence, the money,
Yes, yes. And I really bought into that I could have all the things, right? I could do all of those things. And the expectation that I think a lot of women put on themselves was that they had to do everything really well, you
yeah.
know, everything really well.
Yeah.
And that's just impossible, And I know in my life, it was when I had certain things working well, other things weren't working well. I didn't have everything working well at the same time, because how do you spend enough time at all the things to have everything working well,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. Balance is a big trick. And guess what? It's the number one reason people hire coaches is to find balance in their lives, which is really interesting. And I love what you're saying there. It's like, yeah, you wanted your independence. It sounds like you wanted to feel like, okay, I can count on me, even though I can also count on others, but I want to for sure be able to count on myself to create this life that I want. This life that I want, very colorful, flavored with many things, that feels
Mhm.
like a bit more of an adventure than maybe I thought I was witnessing in my mother's generation, my grandmother's generation, or whatever. And again, it's not a put down. There's no one getting put down on this podcast. No one,
Right,
no
right.
generation, no nothing. We're just talking here about
Mhm,
impressions and our perspective on that,
mhm, mhm.
about
Yes.
your family's, the older women's lives feeling small to you. My mother recently said, she's still living, she's 79 years old, and she just said to me in the last year or so, I remember one day we were on the phone, she said, oh, I finally checked something that's been on my bucket list. I checked off something that's been on my bucket list for 20 years. And I
Mhm,
myself, well, what, she didn't go on a big trip. I mean, she used to want to travel a lot and she didn't do a lot of it. And
mhm.
she hadn't been on a big trip. We're in regular contact, you know. She said she went to my cousin's house, finally visited my cousin who lives 20 miles from her home.
Mm. Wow.
She finally visited them at their home. And that
Wow.
was on her bucket list. And she was so excited to report that she finally made it there 20
Mhm.
miles down the road, you know, and good for her. But for me, that's just like, oh my, oh my gosh, I just have a different, you and I, like, we're wired differently than that. And maybe it's
Mhm.
generational, who knows, maybe it's our personalities, but
Mhm.
I mean, I go 20 miles just to, you know, I mean, you know, get groceries sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? So
Yeah. Yeah,
anyway,
I
it's just,
do know.
I mean, bucket list to me was like, we went to Cairo and saw the
Yeah.
pyramids this year. You know
Yes.
what I mean? Like, that's like bucket list, you know, and
Yeah.
again, it's not a put down of my mother or anyone, but I know
Uh-huh.
what you mean by you had a bigger vision for yourself than what maybe you thought other people in your family had for themselves.
Yeah, and I didn't want my life to be serving my partner, you know? I mean, I saw so many, my mom and my aunts, and it was all about, serving their
Yeah.
husband, and that was the other thing that I decided. I was like, when I get married, it's going to be a equal partnership. I'm not going to,
Yeah.
my dad would say, we'd sit down at dinner and my dad would say, where's the ketchup? And my mom would jump up and go get the, like things like that. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that. But it's so funny how I have learned this. I mean, middle age, looking back, is that never say never on a lot of things, because some things that, life changes. And there was a point in my life where I, had to leave my career behind, and
Mhm.
I was staying home and raising my kids, after my son was diagnosed with a chronic health
Yes.
condition. And so I found myself, I never thought I was going to be a stay-at-home mom, but there I was, you
There you
know. um and then I found that because I was at home, I was doing more of those things. I was doing all the
because you
grocery
had
shopping.
time, Rhonda. You had time.
Isn't that crazy? And then
You can get the
I was,
catch up because you were just home with the kids.
I know, I
Doing nothing.
Yeah, 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 exactly. And I thought I had to, like, I didn't have my own income, so I felt like I had to I had to earn,
Oh,
like, you
gotcha.
know, I mean, it was a really kind of messed up way of thinking about it at the time, that now I look back on and go, wow, and it wasn't like he was saying, this is my money and you're not making it, there was none of that. But I just felt like if I wasn't making my own money, I felt like I couldn't spend any money on anything for myself because it wasn't truly my money, it was all my kids, my family, all
Right.
of that. And yeah, and I thought, wait, how did this happen when that wasn't my intention? you know,
Right.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that was really tough. And I also sort of lost my identity
Mm.
during that time, because I had a great career and I loved it. And we moved to a new town and I didn't know anybody. And I remember going to a doctor's appointment, and on the line where they said, "What's your occupation is? What is your occupation?" I just looked at it,
Yeah.
and I was like, what do I put down there now? You
Like,
know,
so
and
am I
just
going to get the answer wrong? Am I not going to pass this test? Feeling
yeah,
like,
and I felt lost because it was,
yeah.
my identity was that I was, an interior designer and I've been doing this for a long time. And I didn't know who I was really anymore. It was a really difficult thing. And that was, I was probably around 40 at the
Mhm.
time that all happened.
Mhm.
So that was a big, huge transition right there in my life when that all happened. And then, turning 50, I mean, things again, I think kind of decades, 30 is a big, big
Yeah.
moment in your life. 40 is a big moment. 50 was a big moment, for me in my life. And,
Yeah.
and, I've been thinking about this this terminology, I guess, of midlife crisis.
Yeah.
And I kind of like to change the midlife crisis to midlife awakening.
Ooh, I
Be-
love that.
because
Yeah.
isn't that really what's happening?
I
Is
think
that
yes.
you're really, there's an awakening in midlife, and
Mhm.
you start thinking about, how do I want to spend the rest of my life? Am I truly happy? If I'm not happy, how do I become happier? What are the changes that I need to make to do the things that I set out to do in my life? So it's really this awakening. And I always, when I heard midlife crisis, I always think of the old guy with the young woman in the
The
sports
sports
car.
yeah,
Yeah, right.
right.
And
Exactly.
well, why did the guy end up in the sports car? Well, he was really having some sort of an awakening, right, about his life and how he wanted the second part of his life to be. Um, and yeah, I mean, midlife is at 50. I felt like I finally knew who I was, or had a better idea of who I was, and also was really focusing and defining what is it that I want to do, from this point on. I mean, I'm starting the third quarter of the football game here in my life, so what is it that I really want to do?
Changing the game plan, changing the strategy, right? To
Yeah,
be
yeah,
effective in the second half,
with
right?
whole new with all new players,
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
with all new
yeah.
players.
Yeah, sometimes we need people to go, and sometimes we keep the teammates, right? So,
Mhm.
so what was the most difficult part of all of that for you? Like, what was was there a defining event in your life? Was there just that
Well, I
struggle
yeah,
within?
well, I think there were several things. I mean, I my son, my kids were growing up. My daughter was off to college. My son was about to graduate from high school, and um we really hit a period of time where he was really, really struggling emotionally and health wise. And
Mhm.
um there were several times that he was hospitalized, and he was very serious. And that, as a parent, when something like that happens to your kids,
Oh my. Yeah.
you're
Can't
just
imagine.
you're consumed with it, right? You're consumed with
Mhm.
trying to find a way to fix it for them.
Yeah.
What can I do? That was going on. I separated from my husband at the time, and then went through a divorce.
Mhm.
I'd been out of the workforce for so long, and I was working some part-time jobs, but I was faced with, my financial stability was going to be gone. My healthcare was going to be gone. Um, I was facing losing my home that I was living in. I mean, there was a lot of things just all together at once that was happening. And if I look back on it, and I think if I was dealing with one of those things, it would have been hard, really hard. But
Yes.
but I was dealing with a lot of really big, yucky
Yeah.
events.
Unpredictable
Um,
things.
yeah,
You weren't
yeah,
sure, how is this going to roll out with my son's health? How is this going to roll out with my financial life, with my career? Like where, yeah, I remember this season, you had a lot of question marks in your mind.
yes.
What's next? How is this going to work out? What do I do? Which way do I turn?
And just not knowing,
Yeah.
just not knowing what was going to happen, how I was going to get it all figured out, if I was going to get it all figured out.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, I remember saying to myself, I remember saying to, God, if you're trying to show me how strong I am, I like got it. Like I
Yeah.
got it. Like you don't have to throw,
I
yeah,
got
one more thing at me to, prove that I have the strength to get through this. But I have reached the point where I just don't know if I have the strength to just
it.
keep putting one foot in front of the other. I mean, I just had really reached the point where I thought if one more thing happens,
You were
I
at
just don't think I
you're
can
at
do it.
capacity, right? You were at capacity and it's like, I can't take one more thing.
Yeah.
And you think you can't. And actually then you do. Just like a lot of people listening to this,
Hmm.
so many women can relate to this where they think they're at their wits' end, and yet you you get through another moment. You get through another
Yeah.
phase. What got you
Yeah. And,
through
and, and
that?
you wonder how you do it. I mean, yeah, I look back on it and I go, wow, that was a lot to handle all at once. And I felt like one thing would happen and I would start to recover a little bit from that thing, and then something else would hit. So I hardly had any time to really recover. Usually, if you have one big event happen, you have
Right.
time to heal up from it. You have time to, gather your resources. But, for
I'm
me at that time, it was, yeah, it was one thing after another, after another, after another. Um, and I looking back on it, I think that a lot of it was I had really lovely, great group of people that were right there and were supporting me and
Mhm.
constantly checking in. You were one of them, Cindy. I mean, just saying, are you okay?
Mhm.
How can I help you? What can I do for you? And that was everything. That was everything for me. Um, just knowing that there were people that were just ready and willing to jump in and do whatever I needed them to do. And I was somebody that I didn't ask for help a lot. I just was somebody that I was just gonna like power
Possible.
through it.
Because
Yeah,
no one else, no other women listening have trouble asking for help, of course. We
good.
all just asked for help the minute we needed, except for you, Rhonda.
Yeah,
What
right.
is that keep
I
us
know.
what kept you from asking for help when you knew too that you had a wide circle of support that was saying, hey, we'll just fill in the blank for us and we're there.
Well, part of it was, I would say to myself, well, they have problems too. Like they have problems too, and I don't want to burden them with my problems because they're dealing with their own issues. And so I'll just try to handle it myself. I'll try to, but what I did do was I got over that real fast, because I had friends that came in that said, that's ridiculous. I love you, I want to help you. Even if it's just, we're just going to talk about it, let's talk about it. I also had a really great therapist at the time. And so that gave me, I felt like, well, if I don't want to burden my friends about it, I'll pay my therapist. I mean, that's what she does.
Hey, her, so she's got to listen, right?
Yeah. And she's not in it, like my friends are somewhat in it because they know me and they know my family and they knew what was kind of going on leading up to all of this. And so she was just this neutral, party that could just listen without emotion. Yes. And so I felt really grateful to have found her, because she helped me in a lot of ways. Sort through all of it,
Yeah.
And just the reassurance of, I knew that I was somehow going to get through it. But when you're in it, it's difficult to see your way out of it. I mean, you really feel, I felt hopeless, at times, really hopeless.
Yeah.
And so I just kept going back to, at this very moment, I'm okay. At this very moment, I'm okay.
Yes. Stay present in the moment. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. And I had read somewhere that, or heard somewhere that in the midst of any problem, the solution is already on its way. And so I kept thinking about that. And that was very comforting, to know that I don't know what the solution is. I don't know how to figure out all these problems that I'm, going through right now, but I know that some way, somehow there will be a solution to it. It's going to be revealed to me at some point. It has to.
Yes.
It can't be like this forever.
FedEx, right? Overnight it, but send it quickly.
Yeah.
That we gave you hope, that staying in the present moment, I am okay right this moment. And in the midst of any problem, the solution is on its way. We may not know what that is. We may not understand what that looks like or how to invite it in quicker, but you believed it. You believed it.
Yeah. It was having faith that, eventually it was going to work itself out. I mean, I wish it was the next day, of course, that it would work itself out. I mean, that's not how life works. It usually takes a little bit. But I just kept going back to that. And I put a Post-it note up on my vanity mirror that said, it will all be okay. I looked at that every day to remind myself that it will all be okay. It will all be okay. I'll be okay. Yes. It will, I'll figure it out and sometimes it's not even about figuring it out. I think part of it too was just surrendering. And I don't mean surrendering and I gave up, but surrendering in that the universe has a plan, right? There's some sort of plan that's at work right now. I don't know what it is, but I have to trust that it's going to be revealed to me,
I just really appreciate what you're saying here. and that's all a part of that midlife awakening, isn't it? Every piece of that is part of what we're talking about what you are calling the midlife awakening. It isn't just like when we open our eyes in the morning, okay, I'm awake. It's not that quick. It's like this, it's unfolding, uncovering over time, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And two, as I get further away from it, you have a different perspective
Mhm.
on it. And of course you hear all these people say, oh, it was the worst time of my life, but I wouldn't have traded it for anything because I got this and this and this out of it, right? And when you're in the middle of it, you're like, what am I going to get out of this? This is awful.
There's
you
nothing
know
here. Where's the gold nugget? I don't see it.
Where's the good in this? Yeah, exactly. I do not see the good in this. But it's true. I mean, as you get further and further away from it, you look back and go, boy, I did learn a lot. I learned a lot about how resilient I am. I learned a lot about who, my friends are, what kind of people they were, to be there for me during that time. The advice that they gave me, the not advice, the just sitting with me. I learned a lot about myself as a parent going through that. There were many times where I didn't know what I needed to do to move to even the next day with some of what my son was going through, or what to say. And I was racking my brain, like, what can I say to him that's going to make a difference? What kind of, all of that.
Yes.
But really, I mean, looking back on it, it was just, sometimes it's just like just being there. It's not what you're saying, it's just you're just there with them, in it. You're just there with them. And now, he's turned such a corner and he's doing so well. And I'm so proud of all the progress that he's made. And that it's just such relief, to be
Yes.
here after going through all of that. And I didn't lose my house. I found this wonderful job where I had health insurance and work with these wonderful people, and that all worked out for me. And so all of those things that I was so afraid about, they worked themselves out. They did. They worked
There was
themselves.
a plan. There were solutions in every direction.
Mm-hmm.
That piece, I mean, how do you feel about your divorce now? A few years out from that, and
Yeah, I think that there are definitely things that I look back on and I wish that I wish that maybe I would have handled them a little bit differently. But I don't live in regret too much, because what are you going to do? What's done is done.
right?
Yeah, we can only move forward from it. But I've made peace with a lot of that. And I truly, and I've always felt that I wanted him to be happy. I wanted to be happy. And I wanted to make sure that I had the best relationship that I could possibly have with my children as we went through that. And I feel like my relationship with my children is super strong right now. So, I got through that too. And I'm okay, and I have a wonderful relationship, and one of your questions was, I think it was what have you been surprised about?
Yeah, pleasant surprise in midlife.
Yeah, pleasant surprises, are that I have this new relationship, and I'm a whole different person than I was when I was younger. So I see relationships differently. And so I'm creating this different kind of relationship with him. And I mean, what a blessing to have an opportunity to fall in love again at this age, or any age. What a wonderful thing that is. And
It is.
so I savor that, and that's been really fun. I love my relationship with my adult children because it's really fun to have adult children and have this whole different kind of relationship as a parent with them now.
Yes. Yeah.
um
It's a
so
new
I'm
chapter for sure compared to when they're under our roofs and growing up, for sure.
yeah,
A lot of
absolutely.
people struggle with it. So it's, I love that you're saying and hope people hear loud and clear that it can be a wonderful thing. And I
Mhm.
don't know what you think, but part of what I think can make it a wonderful thing is remembering they are now adults
Yes.
and they're going to make their own decisions, whether we like them or not. But if we
Mhm.
respect them as adults, like we want to be respected as adults, it can move mountains, I think.
Mhm. Oh, absolutely. And somebody told me years ago, I've never forgotten it. When my kids were younger, they said, at some point you move from being your child's manager to their consultant,
Yeah.
right? So you're not managing their lives anymore. They're just
Yes.
consulting with you on their life. And I really took that to heart. I was like, because there comes a point where your kids don't want you managing their life.
Yeah.
They don't.
They don't like that. They'll resent it as adults. Yeah. They don't.
Yes.
Mm.
So you have to give that up and put your consultant hat on, and when they want to consult with you about what's going on in their lives, then you do that.
They don't. You
You
just,
stay out of it.
yeah. Yeah. When they don't want us to bestow our wisdom upon them, then, they're on their own.
Right. That's right. Yeah. And I keep saying too, is like everybody sees life through a different lens. And children are my kids are very different from one another. They're just going to they're going to have a different perspective. They're going to see life differently. um they're not me. I mean, I'm looking at it through another lens too.
Mhm.
So you got, as hard as it is to watch them struggle, I just kept telling myself this too, is that, this is their life to live, and this is their life's adventure and their journey, and they have a lot to figure out along the way, just as I did. They're going to do it differently than I did. That's fine. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
um
They're
but
on their
I
path, just like we are on our path. And we don't want to do too much for them or over parent or be over involved because we will rob them of part of their path. Like it's
Yes.
not our path to live, it's theirs. And it's such an interesting shift when most people spend almost 20 years or around 20 years really feeling like they need to be involved heavily, hands-on, day after day after day after day after day for decades. It's really can be so hard to go, oh, but you know what? With for at least my experience was, of course, I grieved when they left, they were gone, but eventually I was kind of relieved. It was like, okay, you two, I gave you all I knew to give you at the time. And of course, yes, I'm still here. I will
Mhm.
always be your soft place to fall or your safe place to land, no matter what.
Mhm.
I want to be that person in your life or one of the places in your life like that. But it's your turn now. You need to
Yeah.
live. You need to make your decisions. You need to choose, make your choices. And and
Yeah.
wow, I don't even have to, say, because they both went to college. Uh, and I thought, I don't even have to say, did you do your homework? Like I thought I had to say, and maybe I
Yes.
didn't, but I thought I was supposed to say it when they were 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And did you get your homework done? You got your, did you get the note in your backpack? And blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
The signed form. Did you get the signed form?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, now you guys can handle it. I'm done.
Yeah.
I gotta organize my own shelves now and drawers and oh
Yeah. Well, and I think what you're saying is there are a lot of people that, when they become empty nesters, they're yeah, you do grieve the end of them being under your roof and being in their lives on a daily basis. But I agree with you. I mean, there is a sense of freedom, like, oh, okay, now, what do I want to do?
right. I don't have to think
And
about these people before I go to the bathroom or
yeah,
whatever, like, right? Or go when I go
yeah,
to the grocery store, it's like, oh, I don't
yeah,
need 2 gallons of milk for Justin this week.
right,
Like I never used
right.
to. It's just
Yeah, that's true. And I
amazing.
and I and I think, I have friends that are retiring or have retired, and that's
Oh,
another big
that's another one.
point in your life where you go, okay, now that I'm not working, then what am I going to do now? Which I'm looking forward to that part too.
I
You
was going
know,
to ask you if there's anything I mean, I know you're looking forward to lots of things, but when you really think about older age, maybe, or the wisdom years, or whatever we're calling those later years in your life, that's
Mhm.
one thing you're looking forward to is retirement.
Yeah, I mean, I think eventually my biggest at the top of my list right now, and I'm very aware of it. I'm becoming more and more aware of it, I guess. Um, as I get older, is there's still so many places I want to go and see, you
Mm,
know?
travel. Mhm.
Yes, yes.
Mm.
And so whenever I see, we were watching a movie the other night and they were in Italy, and I was like, oh, and I said, my stomach hurts because I have a longing to see that place,
Yeah, that's
and
important.
so
Mhm.
yeah, so I'm thinking a lot about that, and when I want to do that and how I want to make that happen.
Mhm.
um so that's something I'm really looking forward to, and I want to do that when I can get around and have the vitality to do it. But also, I have a couple women, that are friends of mine that are well into their 70s
Yeah.
and so vital, and they have so much energy, and they're doing all the things, and they're great role models. I tell them that all the time. You're such great role models, for being the age you are, and you're learning and you're doing and you're going, and I hope I'm lucky enough to be like that too. So
I think it's intentional on their parts, don't you? Because, and I think that's part of what keeps them seeming younger than what the number of their age says to some people. Like, and I know we only have a few minutes left together, but I think this is such an important thing for us to touch on. And that is what our beliefs are around aging, because I have a lot of women in my business that come across, in my path, who are in their 40s, 50s, and think it's too late for them. Too late for them to try a new career, which you have done. Too late for them to find love again, which you have done. Too late, to travel or to get their health in order or anything, like, or to get financially stable, which you
mhm,
have done. All these things, a lot of women get to 40, 50 and go, oh, it's all downhill from here. It's like
mhm,
they think they've peaked, even though they're miserable at the time they think they're peaking, and that it's a slippery slope down. And so, what would you say? Like, what wisdom would you share with other women? Because you are living opposite of that, in my opinion, anyway. And I'd like to think that I am also living opposite. Like, I'm just feel like life gets better, 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 and I'm
mhm.
insistent upon it for myself.
Yeah.
What wisdom might you share that could help those women out there who really are, bless their hearts, they just think they can't navigate it any other way than to just kind of get older, get tireder,
Mhm,
and
mhm,
unhealthier, and then die.
mhm, mhm.
What's that?
Yeah. Well, and I think it's a mindset for sure. It's how are you looking at at aging. Your mindset is I'm getting better and better. I mean, I have the same mindset. I definitely have that same mindset. But I think for me, when I a few years ago made a list of what are the things that I want that would make me happy.
Mm,
I made the happiness list, right?
yeah, I
And
like it.
really gave that so much thought. And I
Mm,
probably had 5 things on my list. I'm like, to be happy, these are the 5 things. I wrote them down, and I'd already had 4 of them,
Oh,
right? And
awesome.
and I went, what am I complaining about? Right? I mean, I've got 4 of the 5 things
It's
that would
amazing.
truly make me happy in my life, and it changed my whole perspective.
Yes.
I stopped going, oh, I wish I'd do this, or I wish that, this, or I wish this would happen or that would happen. I already had a lot of those things. And they weren't things like, I think a lot of people think, oh, if I had $1 million, my life, we know that money
Yeah,
doesn't
that,
bring happiness at all, right? It wasn't anything like that. It was things like I have my health. I have, my children are great. It was really just peeling back the layers and just really the basic things of what made me happy. And
yeah.
so I've talked to several of my friends about that, and I'm like, do make that list. And I think you'll find that you probably already have a lot of those things. And the things that you don't have, make a plan to move toward those things, make a plan and
Create a
and
vision.
recruit supportive friends that will help you and support you in reaching those goals.
Yes, I love that. Please, listeners, make your happiness lists. And yeah, I want you to really hear something that Rhonda said, and that is that mindset is where it's at. How we think about anything is going to make it better or worse, no matter what it is, how we think about it. And so, like her, you make your happiness list and you see and feel an appreciation for what you already have, what's already there that you can feel grateful for. And then if there's things that you have yet to do or yet to get or whatever or experience, then ask yourself, what is my next step? What's the next step to move toward this? Like if you want to go to Italy, right? You could do some research online for what's it cost to fly to Italy, or what are some of the top places you'd want to visit or whatever. I mean, I'm just making stuff up, but and then you're in motion and it feels good. It feels empowering. It feels like it's possible. You want to create that vision, for what you say you want, instead of thinking, I can't do this. This isn't possible for me. It's too late for me. It's only too late for us if we actually believe it is too.
Mhm.
So flipping that switch. I love the idea of a happiness list. Everybody, let's make our happiness list. I'm going to make my happiness list. I mean, I'm so happy that, I it almost seems silly for me to do it, but I'm going to, because I wonder what's going to
Come
come.
up. I mean, you'd be surprised what
I
might
might,
come up on that. Yeah.
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 I
I
might want
was
a
surprised by
taco Halloween costume. I
that.
mean, I don't realize that right now, but I know where to get one if I do, although it would never fit me. We're very differently sized gals. So I'd have to get like, what do you call it when you get not extensions, but what is it in sewing? They add more. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I don't know. I'm sure you could probably get in that taco. I'm sure you could.
one taco size fits all, right? Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
well, is there anything else any parting thoughts, anything else you'd really like to share? I mean, I can't thank you enough, of course. Is there anything else you wanted to share before we wrap it up?
I just want to thank you for doing the podcast and for inviting me to do it. It's been a fun conversation. I love talking about these things. I'm looking forward to all of the podcasts that you're going to do from here on out. I think you're really helping a lot of women, and I just feel grateful to be in the conversation with you about it. I mean, I could talk about these things forever. I just think they're really fun to talk about. So, yeah. And I would say to the women out there, that are going through, maybe some tough times, there's light at the end of the tunnel. There always is. And we get through it, and you're stronger than you think you are.
Women need to give themselves more credit, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
Give yourself credit, ladies. You've survived so much already. Gosh, think about that for a second, and then realize you can get through the next thing or whatever the current thing is. And I love your one day at a time philosophy too. Like right now, I'm safe, I'm okay. And now this next moment, okay, I'm safe, I'm okay now. Now what? Just that moment to moment. We don't have to have it all figured out, what the next 3 weeks or 6 months are going to look like, but we know, okay, I'm here, I'm safe right now. So thank you for your candidness and your sharing and your wisdom and your nuggets. I'm so excited because in a couple days I'll do a wrap up of and share some of those Rhonda nuggets that we got today on a short little podcast. Always 2 days following a conversation, there's another podcast that's shorter, of just a 5 to 10 minute wrap up of some of the wonderful wisdom that a woman has shared. And I wrote down so many things, Rhonda. You should see this page over here. You're so welcome, Rhonda.
Well, that's great. I can't wait to hear that segment.
Wisdom of Rhonda. I'll sum it up in 10 minutes. Not that it's possible, but I thank you so much for your time. I know you're a busy lady, and I appreciate you taking time out. And gosh, what a great conversation. So thank you so much. And thank you, listeners. Please share this news of this podcast with anyone that you think might benefit from the conversations we are having. I'd love to see the word spread more and more as we go along, because the idea is to impact as many people as possible out there. So, and if you need to know any more about what else I've got going on, coaching programs, you want to get on my list just so you can receive my weekly blog, please go to cindydwhitmer.com. Thank you all, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.